Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. We are live on YouTube. We've got an NWSL weekend preview for everyone. So thanks for joining us live this morning. Make sure you subscribe to us, like this video, and drop us your thoughts and leave us your picks for all this weekend's matches. You know, we want to hear from you. Let's go. Hey everyone, and welcome into Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host, Lisa Carlin. We're going to do an NWSL preview for everyone. And just a quick reminder before we take a deep dive into everything to go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. We're also a podcast, so follow, like, and download so that you never miss out on a single episode. The World Cup is just about a month away, so make sure you are locked in, subscribed. Go ahead and follow and download Attacking Third for all of your 2023 World Cup content. Lisa, we're back at it. It's been a whirlwind. We had a U.S. women's national team roster drop. There's been all sorts of World Cup chatter on our ends, and now we get to preview NWSL.
It's been busy. This was my first week back after taking a little bit of time off, and we hit them four episodes in 4 days. Nothing like being back on track, and of course, it's always good to be chatting with you and looking at the Week 13 NWSL preview that we have ahead of us, because it should be some pretty good games this weekend. I'm excited about it, to dive in, to get back to watching everything. But before we get into everything, I just have to let everyone know and give a special shout out to you, Sandra Herrera. It is your birthday today. Happy birthday, Sandra. We are so lucky to be with you on your special day. Everyone, drop Sandra a heart in the chat. Drop her a happy birthday. If you're listening to this as a podcast, tweet at her. Get her notifications going crazy on her phone. Happy birthday, bud.
Thanks, homie. I appreciate you so much. You can make me blush live on the chat. No, I appreciate it. Look, I have a little bit of a tradition to where I work on my birthday. I don't know. There's something weird. Well, I'm wired differently, I guess. Something in my brain. I'm like, you know what you should do on your birthday? Go and be productive.
Eat, sleep, work, and soccer.
All of it.
You deserve a break. Hopefully you get a chance to celebrate tonight, this weekend, with family and friends, because you deserve all the cake, the celebrations, the balloons. I got to ask, are you a cake person? Are you like chocolate vanilla? What's like your go-to birthday dessert?
You know, I'm open to all sweets. I'm not even gonna act like I'm not, but I'm excited for some cake this year. I like my mom's gelatina. My mom makes jellos. You know, if I ask her, she will. So, I'm open to all of it. So, just excited to probably link up with some family over the weekend. But thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate you giving me the shout on the live. I'm locked in and ready. You know, I'm like, yeah, let's talk about NWSL, and then you hit me with the B-Day.
I echo SD Miller right here. Happiest birthdays. Glad you were born. We're so glad you were born. And we get to hear your hot takes on NWSL as well.
No better way to ring in a birthday in my opinion. So let's get cracking then. Let's get right at it. You mentioned it already, Lisa. It's week 13. The second half of the season is officially in full swing. They reached the halfway point at week 11. And now something that we're going to keep an eye on, I think, in this particular weekend, we're going to probably take a look at some individual performances. We want to see players break out, because in celebration with that roster drop, which we covered round the clock yesterday, for the U.S. women's national team, this is going to be the last weekend of games for players before they essentially can get called into extensive camps with their national teams. We know it's true of the United States, but there are a ton of players across the league who have been named to provisional rosters or other final rosters that will eventually have to check in with their national teams as well. Oh, Lucy, thank you for this. I appreciate you. I don't think you would be sitting there doing nothing, but I appreciate that you're here with us.
You'd probably all be working. Everyone always joins our chat and they're like, oh, I have a meeting, but I'm just not there.
Work are distractions. Isn't that like wonderful? I love that about us. You know, again, this is all the benefits that you get when you join us live, when you subscribe, when you get the notifications and alerts. You hop right in and you're like, who needs work? Let's just go get distracted by Lisa and Sandra as they're talking about all things NWSL. But I'm excited for us to maybe make some picks within these 6 matches. But I know we're also going to maybe highlight some specific players within them because of the eventual camps that they will depart to for national teams. So let's start with the top of the table. We're going to get a real treat here with a couple teams going head to head this weekend who have mostly been at the upper half of the table since week 1. Let's start with Portland Thorns versus Washington Spirit. These two going head to head, kicking off the weekend, really. Friday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune on in and watch this one. When we're looking at these two teams going head to head, we can't help but think, is this going to be a potential playoff preview between these two teams? We're still celebrating the roster drop between these two teams. There are multiple players headed to the World Cup. Sophia Smith, Crystal Dunn, just getting that announcement with the U.S. national team. Washington Spirit with a ton of players represented on the U.S. women's national team roster. Kingsbury, Sanchez, Rodman, Sullivan. You have to wonder, Lisa, is this the game where they want to make sure they depart on a high note?
Yeah, I mean, this, you mentioned it. This is a playoff preview game. This is what we're seeing because you look at Portland and Washington, as you talked about, they've been at the top of the table the entirety of the year. They've had really consistent runs throughout this regular season that they're playing on because they've got such top talent. You just rattled off all the names going to the World Cup. Those are mostly just the Americans that were named yesterday, but there's so many more that are kind of thrown into this mix. You have to look at recent form too as well, because there's a couple different factors for me that are going into this game. Yes, the players that are most recently called up, I'm looking specifically at Washington between Rodman, Sanchez, Sullivan, Kingsbury. They're going to want to shine right now. They are feeling confident. They just had celebrities announced them yesterday on U.S. Women's National Team Instagram and Twitter. They are riding so high right now, and that's the confidence that they need to head into this top of the table match, because Washington's at the top right now. They're number 1, and they want to stay there. That's something that they've got their eye on. Mark Parsons is keen to that as well, especially because you have to look at the next couple games as well. This is the last game for these players before they head off to camp, and so they need to pick up 3 points. That way they can set their team on a good streak as they head into a World Cup a few weeks that they have. Looking a little bit specifically more at Washington, they're coming into this one 4 games undefeated. They're coming off a really big 3-2 win over Kansas City Current. After they go down 2-0, they fight back and they end up scoring 3 goals and getting the win, picking up all 3 points in that match. And the most important thing about that game, I know you and Lori recapped it on Monday, but that the goal scorers weren't the typical goal scorers for Washington. Yes, Ashley Sanchez found the back of the net, but we also had Paige Mater and Tara McKeown, a center back, getting up on a set piece and scoring goals. So the atypical people are scoring goals and getting on the stat sheet for Washington. And now you have the typical people, Rodman, Sanchez, Sullivan, that are flying high on confidence right now. I think it's a perfect storm for Washington to go in and cause a little trouble to Portland. Now, the Thorns, they're coming off a win, 3-2 over Chicago, but the story was a little different for them. They went up 2-0, and then they end up conceding 2 goals before they squeak out a win. The stats for Portland are interesting in terms of balls in the back of the net, because they've got the biggest goal differential in the league at 13, but they've conceded 16 goals this year. That's a lot of goals for a team that has a pretty solid defense and really a consistent defense to one that they had last year when they won the championship. They also scored 29 goals. So they have that upper hand. Now, in terms of picks, I think Washington's going to put up a big fight, but ultimately I'm going with Portland Thorns in this one, because Portland is undefeated at home this year. They're going to keep that up. They return to Providence Park to play this match on Friday in the evening, Friday night. It's the only game on Friday, and it's the first time Portland plays at home in 4 regular season games since May 21st. This is the first time they're at home. They're going to show out. They've got superstars as well that were just named to World Cup rosters that are going to come out and go big. So I'm going to give it to the Thorns. They're walking away with the 3 points.
No, I listen. I respect it. I think you make a really good note there about the home field, and I know folks want to talk about advantages or disadvantages, but I think there's something about not just playing at home, but there's something about a return home, and that's something that I haven't stop thinking about, I think, since we were looking ahead a little bit to these matches. I'm excited about this particular matchup, and I love that it's kicking off week 13 just because of all of those things that we're going to be paying attention to, that it probably will have a little bit of a feel of like a postseason match, that there are going to be stars that are involved. I'm also curious about that. Like, are we going to see like a minutes watch or restriction on some of these players, knowing that they've got flights to catch?
Yeah.
What is that going to mean for Sophia Smith? What are the conversations with Coach Norris about that, or Mark Parsons and losing 4 players to a U.S. national team roster, and you're talking not just 4 players, but 4 starters essentially for this team. And I'm with you and everyone, looking at Hatch, who might be motivated in this game by other factors. She's a player who's not going to the World Cup after spending significant amount of time with the national team. Or is this the moment where we see Hatch sort of pop off and take over in this second half? I'm not too sure. This might be the last game where we get to see Ashley Hatch get fed. She thrives off of that.
I know.
Yes, we talk a lot about her position, how she's that typical center target forward, but having Trinity Rodman, having Ashley Sanchez, having Andy Sullivan, and being sort of the vessel, right, for the receptacle for all just to be fed, that's going to go missing over the next several weeks. So I'm very curious about how that looks.
You think Hatch plays a little bit different in this game? I mean, right, like, okay, in terms of World Cup rosters, these players knew before yesterday when we all found out. So, like, it's possible that she played last week's game knowing that she wasn't going to the World Cup. But now that it's public, maybe that makes a little bit of a difference. Like, I don't know, but you're exactly right. It's the combination play between the 3 of them, Hatch, Sanchez, and Rodman, that is helpful for Hatch.
So I'm gonna keep an eye on that. I'm hopeful that maybe we get to see another really cool combination and leak up on the pitch between all of them. But I still want to look at those players who I know are going to be here. I think that's the other thing I'm looking at. Is this the game where Mark Parsons really starts to integrate some of these other players? I mean, we just coming out of that draft, I remember when you and I covered it that night, in Philly, just sort of how they navigated that draft and how important it was for them to ultimately start looking towards the future a little bit and have players who will be able to participate and start to really kind of buy in early to what they're trying to build in DC. So I'm curious about it. I think for the Thorns, look, Sophia Smith is going to want to head off to camps in a really good scoring form. I think she's going to be gunning for goal. I think if there's a couple matches across this weekend that you should try to keep an eye on, this is one of them for me. Yeah, I really am. It's tough for me to make a pick in this one. I thought maybe it'll be my draw.
It's our first game, bud.
It's our first game, and I was like, I don't want to do that. But I do think it has the possibilities and the makings of maybe a higher scoring affair. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this one ends in like a 2-2 draw or something like that. But I am going to give the advantage to Portland. I'm also going Thorns as well in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. We're both going Thorns, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's high scoring as well, because both these teams are coming off of high scoring games, 3-2, right, for both of them. But sometimes that also is a factor in tightening up defenses. If you've just conceded 2 goals, you're going to be really stingy on that end. So that's where I'm coming at it. I could see a 3-2 scoreline, still in favor of Portland, but if it's like a 1-0, like,
that'll be the shocker, right? That'll be the actual shocker if it's low and narrow and just tense and combative. We'll see if we're both correct. Starting off dangerously, so we're both going the same pick to kick off the episode. Let's make one more pick before we take a break. San Diego Wave versus OL Reign. Got a West Coast battle. This one kicking off on Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. We're talking about lots of players have been called up. OL Reign has led the way with 5 players who will participate in the United States World Cup appearance, and San Diego Wave have got some pretty standout players of their own heading off to national team camps. When we're looking at these two teams, we've got San Diego coming off of a recent loss tough one against rivals at home. And we've got OL Reign, who are no strangers to picking up results on the road when and where it counts. They're coming off of a gritty, grueling heat check kind of a match on the road in Houston. They're traveling in this one as well, but maybe some different conditions might come into play. When you're looking at these two teams, do you have a winner, a loser? Do you feel the makings of a draw in this one?
Yeah, so this is a game that is also, to me, playoff potential preview that we're seeing. The first one, Washington, Portland, and now San Diego versus OL Reign. These are teams that we've seen compete in the postseason and understand what it's like in that situation. In Week 13, we're not in the postseason by any means, but San Diego is at home. When they play at home, it's just something a little different, right? It's just a little different for them at Snapdragon when they can sell it out. But that, if anything, motivates Laura Harvey and OL Reign and gives them a little bit of a fire. You're talking about the U.S. national team players. Rose Lavelle has been rumored to maybe get some minutes. For OL Reign this weekend. I'm not so sure about it. I think at this point, she hasn't played since April. You just let her go to camp, national team. However, though, that means that her potentially first game back, if she doesn't play in the send-off game for the United States, could be a World Cup game. But I think she'll play in the send-off game. Maybe we'll get to see Rose Lavelle in a couple minutes here. But San Diego, winless in their last two games. They're coming off a big rivalry loss to Angel City. That was a 2-1 game. And before that, a 0-0 draw to Louisville. So they've conceded 2 goals in their last 2 games. And for San Diego, Kaylin Sheridan, Casey Stoney, the coach of the Wave, they like defense and they like to keep shutouts, and they haven't done that. So I think they're going to lock it down a bit defensively, which for OL Reign, they like a challenge. They do. The Reign are coming off a draw last week in Houston, as you mentioned, tough, grueling, hot conditions, 0-0. But over their last 3 games, OL Reign is only 1-1-1. So they've hit a bit of inconsistency at this point in the season. But these teams are familiar with each other because we're at that point where teams are replaying each other. They just played in a Challenge Cup game at the end of May. That was a 3-0 win to OL Reign. And the first time they played in the regular season was a 1-0 win to OL Reign. But that was a late end of the game stoppage time regular season goal from Olivia van der Yacht that they got. So I don't know between these two sides. I think San Diego being at home, having a bit of inconsistency, wanting to lock down their defense, I think they're going to want to play a little bit better. I could see this one as a draw.
Lisa, look, I get nervous when we do this because I reserved my draw for this one. I said if there's going to be a draw this weekend, it might come between top table teams who go head to head. It was tough, though, to sort of think about where I was going to lie in this one because just like you mentioned, Laura Harvey has gotten the better at times of Casey Stoney's in these head-to-head. This is one of my favorite head coaching matchups to take a look at in the league. And it's so funny to even say that because it's just 2 years old with the Wave, in their second year of existence as a franchise. But it has rapidly become one of my favorite coaching head-to-heads. And I don't know if this idea or this concept of a home field advantage will actually come into play for the Wave in this match. I'm also very curious, and I want to hear your thoughts on this as well. Do we finally see Rose Lavelle get some minutes?
I know.
Now that she's been named to a national team roster and has a camp ahead of her.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying. Like, I think it's been rumored that we might see her get minutes. I think there's 2 hands that you can play. Hey, get her some minutes in an NWSL game, in a competitive game. That way she has at least game minutes under her belt before she goes to play with the national team in the send-off series. But on the other hand, why risk it? Yeah. What is the point in giving her 45 minutes in this game and giving her 20 minutes at the end of the game? Because she'll go and play against Wales with the U.S. and she'll get minutes there. However, you got to make sure she's built up to game ready. And it's been reported that Rose Lavelle has been training with OL Reign, so she's got a little bit of fitness under her, but I don't know. I mean, I hope we see her. I hope for the fans' sake they get to see her before Australia.
Yeah, I'm with you. I hear you on that. I'm curious of if we're going to see maybe some of the depth come into play in this match. Again, looking for potential minutes restrictions for players who are on the horizon for a national team camp. And I wouldn't mind. I like seeing Elise Bennett start for this all rain side. I wouldn't mind seeing the reintroduction of Amir Ali into starting 11s for this San Diego Wave side, because it's not just Morgan that they're losing. They're also going to lose Sophia Jakobsen eventually along the way, as she has been named to Sweden's national team roster as well. So there's going to be some, I think, very unique kind of individual battles to look at on this day. Is Emily Van Egmond able to give some
Yep.
minutes in the midfield for the Wave, as again another player who's been named to Australia's provisional roster? There's I my curiosities are piqued in this one, but it's because of maybe some of those unknown variables and some of those question marks where I just was like, I don't know if I can make a confident winner or loser type of pick in this one. I think it'll be fun. I think, unlike Portland and Spirit, I think this one has the potential to be the narrow match. And because of that, I think it might have the makings of a draw. So we're going 2 for 2 to start off this episode, Lisa.
Both
We're living
draws.
dangerously. We're living dangerously, but we've got more picks to make, everybody. So make sure you stick with us after a quick break.
You gonna start the engine sometime soon, Erica?
Do you know the odds of all of us being here at this time? It's improbable, yet here we are, together.
Hold on to your saddles.
All right, we're back, and let's keep making some predictions. Welcome into the show. If you're just joining us after the break on our live, we're going to try to make a pick between Orlando Pride and Kansas City Current. This one kicking off on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. This one a little bit maybe different energy from the first two matches that we were talking about and making some predictions. Lisa, when we're looking at these two teams, these are going to be two squads that are hanging out bottom half of the table. There's some separation between them in the standings, right? With the currently claiming the bottom of the table with 12th place. But I'm curious if this is a game that both teams are looking at as an opportunity, because we're looking at two teams that have shown us some promise, but have hit some skids right now, kind of in this particular phase of the season. Is this the game that either one of them want to take a look at and say, let's kickstart ourselves back into gear? And which one is it? Which one is it, though?
Honestly, I think both of them have to have that mentality of, hey, this is where we turn a page. This is an opportunity to pick up points, to get on the right side of things. With Orlando not having Marta, which, of course, we're doing this before availability reports. We're not sure what's going to happen. That's tough. It's really tough for Orlando without Marta. They need that leadership. They need her veteran ability on the pitch, because they're coming off a bit of a beating, 3-0 to North Carolina. The Courage handing this game to Orlando, it was tough. And for Kansas City, they're coming off their second straight loss as well. And this was a high-scoring one, 3-2 to Washington Spirit. There were a lot of positives for Kansas City in this game, right? In their ability to play. They scored early. Michelle Cooper, the number 2 draft pick, getting her first goal in the opening minute of this game, the fastest goal, breaking a record there for Cooper. And then they draw a penalty kick. Dabinia is able to finish that one, and they go up 2-0. But they can't hold on to it. They struggle to hold on to that momentum against the number 1 team in Washington Spirit. But still, once you go up 2-0, I mean, it's the most dangerous scoreline. You've got to be able to hold on a little bit. You have to be able to mentally shift so you can lock down defensively. Kansas City hasn't won on the road yet this year. They are traveling to Exploria Stadium. there is something to be said about being on the road and having it be really difficult to pick up points. And I just don't think they're going to be able to snap that this week. As you mentioned, I mean, it's a bit of a streak for these teams to now be able to turn the page, get on the right side of history. And I think for Orlando, now's the time for Seb Hines, even without Marta, if she's not available to play, to pick up points against Kansas City. I think they're going to split the regular season games because the first meeting, it was 2-0 to Kansas City. They got the win. That was their first regular season win all year. It was a Debinha goal, CC Kaiser goal. That was right after Matt Potter was released from Kansas City. But the dust has settled with the Current, and I think Orlando is going to pick up points at home, get all three of them in this win.
I think something that we've seen from Orlando, which, I don't know if this is something that really piques the interest of folks, but this concept of making sure that playing at home actually has a home field advantage.
Yeah.
And that comes a lot of times that's tied to wins. It's tied to results specifically. And I think if we look at some prior seasons for Orlando, that maybe you don't connect those two dots together. Mm-hmm. But there's something about this season where it sort of feels like they have kind of figured that out, where they've bought into that, where this team goes out there and they're like, we are going to make oppositions come into this facility, play us on the road, and have it be a difficult day at the office, no matter the result. But they've gotten wins. I mean, we have to reference that win against Portland that they got. It's massive for a team like that. If anything, that was a win that I was looking for them to build off of. But then they suffer that big loss against North Carolina Courage. So now here they are with an opportunity back at home against the Current. And I'm with you. I think they're going to get it. I think this is going to be one of those games where both teams are going to be motivated by the fact that they are bottom half table teams and they want to try to steal points off of the other in an effort to make sure they are in it during a long regular season. But with some of the players who have been named to, provisional rosters or hopefuls that we know are still trying to crack through on national team rosters, I can't help but wonder if this game is going to come down to Brazilian excellence. Or, is this going to be the game where Debinha just takes over? Is this going to be a game where we see Adriana remind everyone that she is one of the more underrated, probably off-season signings for a club? I'm hopeful for it. I'm with you, though, that I think some of it will come down to Marta's availability. We see what this team looks like when she is available for them and on the pitch versus when she is not. And it's clear that they're much better when she's there for them. So I'm curious to sort of see how they will build off, if they will lean more into the fact that they are in home, that they do have that advantage, because Orlando and the conditions is that they've made it not an easy place to play. But if they show that they are the ones to play through those, maybe not as ideal kind of weather conditions, that they're the ones who will come out with the results. So I'm excited to see what Seb Hines' game plan for this one against Kansas City Current. And I think the coaching staff might look at this as an opportunity. I think they're going to try to capitalize on it.
And sometimes when we do our picks, like I've been doing the show with you for nearly 2 years, 2.5 years. I know what you're going to pick. I know which way you lean. I really thought you were going to go KC on this one. I'm so happy that we're both Orlando. I really think Seb Hines is going to pull it out. And as you mentioned, the Brazilian power, Adriana, I think it's going to be good things. I just don't think KC has it right now.
I will say this. Maybe getting out of Kansas City and going on the road might benefit Kansas City at this point.
They haven't won on the road yet.
They haven't won on the road, but I think those are things that teams find motivation in. And let's not act like they're not getting those regular pieces back on the pitch.
This is true.
Just like I'm talking about how Marta is that player who's different, who makes Orlando look different. I really do believe that Morgan Gautrat's return is going to make Kansas City look completely different. So as that player continues to get extended minutes and plays a role, if her availability is strong for this weekend for Kansas City, it might be dangerous. It might be a long day at the office for Orlando.
Get a start? You think we get a start from Gautrat if she's?
I'm not too sure. Hopefully, I hope so. Yeah. I think if if Kansas City starts producing more games where they have that trifecta of Debinha, Gautrat, and DiBernardo, they will continue to be a tough team to play.
Fire. That's a
Tough team
fire
to play.
midfield right there.
So those
That's
are things to look out for sure,
Yeah.
I think, in this game. Who's
That's
available?
the midfield that we were so excited for in the offseason when all three of those free agents signed with Kansas City. That's what we've been waiting for, and we haven't seen it yet. That's why, like, we've got to get that. I agree. Morgan Charles is going to be a game changer for this midfield. For sure.
Yeah, we got like, I think, a little, and I think that's why folks are kind of like maybe not sold on it yet, because we got like the slightest of glimpses of it in that last match, but they ended up dropping the match, you know?
Yeah, no, that's not enough. I'm talking like extended minutes of that trio, because that's what we haven't seen enough for them to implement their game on to opposition and to control spells of the game. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a couple minutes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm excited for this one. We'll see what comes out of it between these two sides. We've got two other teams who are still on the hunt for points and want to make sure that they break through. I think if you're Houston, you're on the outside looking in and you want to get a win and crack through the upper half. And if you're Angel City, you want to build off the momentum. So let's make a pick in Angel City versus Houston Dash. Angel City with a big win over their rivals on the road at San Diego. Massive. We all bared witness to an excellent match. Absolute scenes on CBS. A 2-1 victory for Angel City. And Houston hanging around, perhaps trying to find the right time to peak and then eventually go ahead and make their statement game. Quick pick.
Yeah, I mean, I like this matchup. As you mentioned, Angel City's at home. That's a big win they're coming off of. Can they ride that momentum, right? They got their new new interim head coach stepping into the reins. I think that it gives a little bit of a shakeup to the team. Now, how long does that shakeup last? I think going up against your rivals, playing against San Diego, that's where you really see that shift. Can they keep it going throughout Houston? Houston's a good team. Houston is a very good team, especially defensively. They're coming off that 0-0 draw with OL Reign. They're undefeated in their last 4, but they haven't picked up more than a point in their last 2 games, coming off back-to-back draws. They're also without Natalie Jacobs. Jacobs received a red card in the game against OL Reign, so she'll be serving her game suspension against Angel City. So we're going to see center back rotation. So although Houston has been so defensively sound, Natalie Jacobs is a part of that puzzle and why they've been so sound. Now they're without Jacobs. Who are we going to see slotted into that back line? We don't have availability reports. We've seen Ali Prysock slot into that role before. I think we could see maybe Havana Salone slot into that spot or help out with Katie Lind in the back line a little bit. It's going to be difficult. I think Jean Campbell's going to be put under a little bit more pressure against this Angel City squad and the players that they've got coming back for them. Do we see extended minutes from Julie Ertz and Alyssa Thompson at this point, knowing that they're going to the World Cup? Do you just kind of hold off? I think that with other U.S. players, we can say, nope, they're going to get long extended minutes. I'm looking at a Rodman, Sanchez, Kingsbury, the Washington players. I think they're going to play full minutes. But when I look at Angel City, I'm not so sure about someone like a Julie Ertz. I'm really not. She's coming off back-to-back 90-minute games for Angel City. She made the World Cup roster. Yeah, she had this tremendous comeback. I don't know if you risk it in a game like this. And if Julie Ertz isn't in the mix, I think it gives Houston the advantage over this side.
Look, I think that's a valid point. I don't think it's an unfair take to have, for Angel City going into this game. Even without that, even with the question marks around availability for Ertz or Thompson in a game like this, I still think I go Houston in this game. Yeah. I don't know if the win that Angel City got against San Diego is enough to kind of kickstart a season for them or shake off all that they have been through for this first half of the season.
It's been tough.
It's been a grind for them already. And just sort of hearing from players post game out of that Angel City match in terms of the grind that it was and how they felt that week leading up to a rivalry game was the most intense training. that they've ever had. It showed in the game. This is an Angel City team that we have seen, kind of lose something down the stretch of games.
I agree.
I don't know if it was like, fatigue or fitness but that didn't happen in the game against San Diego. If anything, they had reserved enough in the tank to turn that game around completely and get the win. So I think they'll still, have the motivation and momentum off of that win. But I think they're going up against a team that also has kind of the same motivation and mentals going into a game like this. And they are much closer to finding a breakthrough into that upper half than Angel City is. And I think even if it's limited minutes with Ertz, even if it's limited minutes with Thompson, I think there's enough here for Houston to game plan and isolate some players or make them a non-factor for them to pull off.
I mean, if Ebony Salmon comes to play in LA, like, game over. I'm with you though. I'm giving Houston the nod on this one, but I think if Angel City somehow pieces together moments of the game out of sheer will, right? Out of sheer, like, that's what it's going to come down to. Tactically and on paper, yeah, Houston's going to get this win. But when you look at Angel City and everything that they've been through and their coaching changes, and now they've got World Cup rosters out and they get to host at home on a Sunday afternoon to play this game, I could see, like, it being one of those games where you're like, who the heck would have thought that Angel City pulled it out? But they did, because of all the off-field factors and capitalizing on random mistakes, forcing own goals, whatever it may be that are like the quirky things that happen in the world of football. That's how I could see this game going in Angel City's favor. Frankly, it's going to be unlucky for Houston and really lucky for Angel City, but I'm going to stick with Houston because I can't put the odds of this in the fate and luck. I got to go with the football stats on this one.
You got to see what's in front of you and make that pick. And we've got 2 more to make. There's 2 more games that we got to run down and get through. So make sure you all stick with us after a quick break.
And how about this?
Get ready for nonstop action that will have you saying,
You gotta be kidding!
"Oh my, Canada."
What a play and what a finish!
That's some pretty good football, eh?
He's gone all the way to the house!
It's the Canadian Football League, Friday on CBS Sports Network.
All right, welcome back. Let's close it out with our final 2 picks. We've got a couple clubs here that might want to get some points before the season gets a little bit deeper. And we've got 2 teams who are really in some sharp form. Let's start there. North Carolina Courage versus Racing Louisville. This one kicking off Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tune in and watch, because Lisa, for me, this is a game that I'm really excited about. I know we kicked off the top of the episode with top table teams going head to head, perhaps a postseason preview. But this game right here, I just like the form that these 2 clubs are in, and I'm very curious about the makings of it and if there is an actual winner and a loser for you in this game. We've got Savannah DeMello, who will be headed off to her first ever World Cup with the U.S. national team. Casey Murphy named to the roster as a goalkeeper for North Carolina Courage. I would imagine that these 2 players get minutes in this game just because of when we were talking about it, Lisa, we were talking about during the roster reveal that there are certain players on that U.S. roster who will play specific roles. And it's unclear at this moment what type of minutes Murphy and or DeMello could see in the World Cup. So maybe this is the game where they make sure they close it out.
Yeah, 100%. Savannah DeMello is going to be flying for Racing Louisville this game. This is a player that with the getting called up to this U.S. World Cup roster without having a cap to her name, the praise that she got yesterday on social media from teammates, from opponents, from other colleagues around the women's soccer space that she has played with, whether it was collegiately or growing up or played against in the NWSL, was all positive praise from her. Like, she must have gone to bed last night with the biggest smile on her face. I hope she didn't read any of the hater mail. There's always haters out there, Savannah, but don't read it. She's going to be flying this weekend with confidence, with everything she's done so far with Racing Louisville, right? She's got the support of every single one of her teammates and her coaching staff in Louisville. And this is a team for Racing Louisville that I think can just continue to go on a little bit of a run. Now they're traveling to North Carolina, and this is a team, two teams that just played against each other. It was a 2-1 win to North Carolina at the end of May, where North Carolina went up early, 2 goals, and Louisville comes back with a Jordan Baggett goal in the 88th minute. But Louisville in that game, the stat wise, they outshot North Carolina 17-13, and shots on target 6-5. So this was at the start of Racing Louisville's build up to getting more consistent with Savannah DeMello in the midfield and Jalen Howell and the mesh of the players coming together. And that's when Louisville really started to go on their run. Now, North Carolina is coming off of 2 really big scoreline games. Their second straight win, 3-0 and 5-0. 2 shutouts, 8 goals in 2 games. I mean, North Carolina and Caroline, frankly, is hot.
Oof.
I think she cools off. So for me, I'm giving this one to Savannah DeMello, Racing Louisville. Go big perp in this one. I think Caroline cools off a tiny bit in this game.
You know what? I hear you on that. I don't think that's unfair to say. I would even venture to say that Caroline, it's not so much that she cools off. I think that she goes up against Abby Erceg. I think that she gets, reintroduced to Jalen Howell. Like there's footage. There's 2 weeks of Caroline being an absolute menace on the pitch, driving defending players. Yeah, driving defending players just wild, right? Outrageous stuff. It's been a real treat to watch and critique and take a look at. Watching it up close, I went to that 5 spot, that 5-goal blowout where she got the hat trick against Chicago. It's remarkable what she's doing on the pitch. But for Racing, they're putting things together as well. I look at this team, and when we were previewing this match, or the previous match against Gotham, I said, you know what? Racing is good. They have good players. They go out there and they have fun. And because of that, they're always a treat to watch. But I need them to get a win, and I need them to get a win against a top table team. They've shown they can hang around and hold their weight and pull their weight against those sort of contending teams, but they had yet to get an actual win, a full 90-minute performance with 3 points, and then it finally happened against Gotham. So I'm happy for that because I chose them in that game to pick the win. I'm thrilled for that they proved me right. But I don't know if they do it against this North Carolina Courage side. I'm going to break it. I had to break it eventually. I'm going to go North Carolina Courage in this one. We're talking about advantages. I really do think North Carolina, Wake Med has become one of those places that has kind of become a little bit of an advantage for North Carolina. Abby Erceg is no stranger to going up against Caroline, but we could see Caroline cause enough chaos that she doesn't even actually have to score. She can force an own goal. So I like the way this Courage team has played. They have clearly been bought in since week 1. Impressive. They want to keep the ball. They want to retain the ball, and they have shown that now that they are going to keep the ball, that they're going to figure out a way to do something with it. So I think that Racing hits a little bit of a bump. I think that we see some good individual performances from players from out of Louisville, but I think Carolina has the tactics and the game plan to go ahead and pull off the win, and I think they're going to get it.
Well, our streak had to come to an end at some point. We had gone 4 for 4 on the same picks, and it just would have been a weird Twilight Zone weekend if we had all the same picks. So I respect it. I get it with North Carolina, as you talked about, playing at home for North Carolina has become a fortress for them. They're really bought in to what they want to do. They had to shift up some different priorities at the start of this season, losing Debinha in the midfield, and they finally hit a groove about where they're going to go. But I'm sticking with Racing Louisville.
I love
I've
it.
got all my eggs in the Savannah DeMello basket. I think this player is just to the moon, right? Like, I love it. I love watching her play. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, tune into this one for sure if y'all have the time. Last one for us to close out the episode. We're going to make a pick between Gotham FC and Chicago Red Stars. This one's going to close out things on Sunday. It's kicking off at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. Gotham falling a little bit from grace a little bit for the month of June, Lisa. That's something that we have had to note in your absence. Jordan and I were making these previews and these recaps, and they've cooled off in June. They absolutely stole our hearts in May and owned the month of May, but they've hit a little bit of some hiccups along the way this month. They are searching for a win in 4 games. They're on a winless streak at this moment. Winless in 4 games. Is this the match that they look at and say, Chicago Red Stars, let's eat and go out there and get a win? Is this the one for you? Was this an easy pick to make for you?
Yeah, I think this game is going to be difficult on a little bit of fronts, as you mentioned, right? They've hit a skid in their form. They haven't won in 4 games. They've coming off a tough 2-0 loss to Louisville last week. And their goal production has been limited 100%. Just 2 goals in their last 4 games, and one of those being a penalty kick, which penalty kick is still a goal, not hitting it at all, but it's not a run of play goal, which is what we were used to seeing from Gotham throughout May. For me, Gotham bounces back. They pick up points. They get this win. I think when we're talking about World Cup rosters and who's going, Gotham got a little bit of, I'm gonna call it out, special treatment yesterday with the roster drop because they're based in New York. They got to go on Good Morning America, and it was Christy Ewis and Kelly O'Hara and Lynn Williams getting shout outs before the roster even came out. They got to hold up their jerseys. A little bit of special treatment for them being in New York. And I think that's what they want. I mean, I'm a Philly gal. New York people that's what they want. They want the shine and the spotlight, and we're gonna sign contract extensions at the top of the Eiffel
We're
Tower.
getting regional with it. We're getting
Come on
regional here.
Because of that, I'm gonna give it to Gotham because they've got this like spotlight on them right now, and these players are ready to go. I think Lynn Williams is one that has talked about how she worked so hard to get back to this World Cup roster and get back on this national team after injuries. And she still doesn't feel like she's there. Like she's like, I can be better. I can be more consistent. I can prove myself. And I think that the mentality that we've seen from Williams over the last several months and the last year of getting back into her play and back into form has been the level up mentality. And not that, I don't want to say nothing's good enough, but that she can always get better and what she can prove on and not getting complacent. And I think that this type of game is one that we could see Lynn Williams bounce back and say, you know what? At this point, she's made the World Cup roster. She wants to be a starter when she's in the Southern Hemisphere. She's got to score some goals, and she's got to get on the board. I think Christy Ewis is also one that's been pretty stoked to make her first World Cup roster at the age that she is and at the point in the career that she is, that I think she's going to want to come out and prove. And Chicago just they've been fighting in their recent games, but I don't think they pick up the points, and I'm giving it to the New Jersey, New York side.
Listen, I think that's a smart, logical, common sense pick to make in this matchup. Look, I got to hop in on the media availability with Juan Carlos Amaros, and you know he said in regards to this match and the players who will eventually depart on the team and then head off to national team camps, that they want to send them off with that feeling of a win, with the feeling of obtaining 3 points. They think it's important. They've been winless, like I said, in 4 games. So they're looking for that taste again. It's gone missing for this team. And I have no doubt that they're going to be motivated by that in a number of ways. This is a team that they've already got a win against on the road when they faced Chicago out in SeatGeek Stadium. But it was also a game in which Chicago had a response and kind of quelled some of what Gotham was trying to produce. It wasn't enough to eventually come back and get a win, but it definitely was a tale of two halves. And you know what? All logic and common sense probably means that Gotham is going to go into this match and walk away with 3 points. But it's my birthday. I'm not going to have any common sense. And you know what I want for my birthday? I want a Chicago Red Stars dub. So I'm going to go with the Chicago Red Stars, not for a prediction, but just for a birthday gift.
That is the quote of the episode. It's my birthday. I don't want any common sense. Amazing. I like where you're going with it. You got to stick with the hometown team on your birthday. Maybe
we'll see.
You'll get some birthday goals from the Red Stars too.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, I know we've talked a lot about players who have been named to the roster and how they're going to want to have strong performances and strong games to go off of. And we've seen Alyssa Nair kind of absorb, a game that comes to her. I think we saw that against that Orlando Pride team where she and the backline faced a lot of attack, and you hit it right on the head, Lisa. Lynn Williams is going to be on the hunt, but I think Alyssa Nair is going to want a strong game to exit on that match as well, and I'm sure her teammates are going to want to make sure that they send her off in strong form. So I'm very excited for this matchup, and we'll of course have the recap and talk all about this and see where our picks lied and if we were correct. But for me, no common sense, just birthday vibes. Let's go. That's a wrap for us on A3. Thanks everybody for joining us on Attacking Third and listening to us. Download, follow, and listen to us anywhere you get your podcast. You can watch us too. Subscribe to us on YouTube to get alerts for whenever we go live at youtube.com/Attacking Third. We'll be back with a recap on Sunday night, so make sure you stay tuned. For Sandra, Herrera, and Lisa Carlin, this was Attacking Third.